And after you leave a like, remember to smash the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to my channel as yet. And remember to hit the notification bell so every time I post a video, you can know right away. Subscribe, 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 subscribe.
What's up, my YouTube friends, viewer subscribers, everybody? Welcome back to another banger motivational video. And the topic for today is the truth about loud people. I already did a video about quiet people, so I decided to make a video about loud people. And when I say loud, I don't mean people that's like boldly speaking, or I would say speaking in caps, because there's a difference. I mean people like whenever you're in a debate, conversation, or they're upset, then they get overly loud. There's a reason why people are loud. And I'm going to break it down. Well, there's a lot of reasons why they're loud, but I'm going to focus on the main objective. So, those types of people, there's the ones that have some trauma and they are not used to being heard. So if you ever notice, whenever you're debating with somebody or somebody's upset, and like it's human nature to whenever you're speaking with somebody, they always match your tone subconsciously because they don't even know. This is why if you whisper to somebody, they'll whisper back, even if there's no reason for them to do so. So with that being said, is people that always loud when you're debating or they're upset, they have issues from maybe their childhood or, well, obviously their childhood. So whether it's their family or what's it called, or the school they go to, or the environment they're in, it has something to do with where this person is from. Because naturally speaking, if you're having a conversation with somebody, whether it's like 6 to 10 people, say there's a group of people, if you guys are having a discussion, like debate, like strong debate, like debate is different from arguing. But if you're debating with somebody and they're always talking over you, that's because they're not used to being heard. And to them, they think the only way they can be heard is by speaking louder than everybody else. Doesn't mean what they're saying is correct or they're smart. That's just the issue that they have. If you ever notice, if you're debating with somebody and say you have a strong point and they're gonna say something bad, even in arguments, and they're gonna say something bad, they're trying to yell over you. Or because whenever a person is speaking louder than you, subconsciously what's happening is they're trying to talk over you, like I just said, but they're trying to silence you. That's why. Because nobody's gonna talk over somebody else if they're not trying to get them to be quiet. You know what I mean? Example, it's the same way if you have kids and they're walking around yelling, you yell over them in order for them to stop yelling. You know what I mean? So it's the same concept with people that are always loud. So you can't blame them because I don't think they know that they're doing it. That's why when they're upset, they get loud. You ever wonder why you're walking through the mall or you're somewhere, you minding your own business, and then somebody is in some argument somewhere all over the place, and then they start yelling and everybody can hear them? That's where that come from. So if you didn't know then, you know now. So if you're ever in a, say, any altercation with a person like this, the best thing is to stay silent and let them finish what they're saying. Because if you're saying something and they're yelling back and you keep on talking, they're gonna get louder and louder and louder and louder because they're not used to being heard. And like I said, it could be their family or their school. So with that being said, is they're the types of people that were like, people never value their words or value their opinion. So in order for them to feel like they're heard by others, is they have to talk all over everybody else. That's where that come from. So that's the one of the truth about it. Like there's a lot of reasons why somebody could be loud, but that's the main reason. Because nobody, bro, even if you go to a kid, say 6 to 10, or maybe even younger, if you whisper to them, they will whisper back. If you do not believe me, try. If you got kids or siblings, anybody, they will whisper back, even if there's no reason for them to whisper. You can have a strong debate with somebody else, clashing back and forth. But if two people are in the same on the same level mentally, then they won't yell over each other because one will speak and the other one will listen. And then afterwards it's flipped. So the only reason why those guys get louder is because you're talking and they're trying to silence you just so you can hear them. That's where all of that comes from. They're not used to being heard. It could be like maybe the home they grow up in. Maybe they have siblings or their parents used to tell them, "Oh, be quiet," or maybe when they're talking, nobody's listening to them. That's where all that come from. Because you got to remember, like our past doesn't define who we become in the future. But our present moment is what determines our future. A lot of people get this concept mixed up. They always say, oh, but I'm from this background. It doesn't really matter what background you're from. You have the ability to shape your own reality to how you see fit. But that's some bars right there. But not the point. But that's where that come from. So if you didn't know then, that is why. So that's just how they think. It's subconsciously they're doing it. Like they don't even know. Those are the type of people where if they get upset, they black out. And then after they regain consciousness, then they sit down and then they start understanding what they were, what was going on and what have, those are the type of people that in order for them to understand what really happened when they got loud, they have to calm down and then somebody else has to explain it to them. That's where that come from. It could be that this person was bullied in school, or maybe when this person is trying to say something, then everybody else pick on them. It could be like that because that like stuff like that is what lead people when they grow up. This is why they get loud because of all the issues they have. It's the people in this generation. This is what you call trauma, and they haven't deal with it as yet. So they're trying to throw it behind them and life still marches on. And then the older they get, whenever they're in any disagreement with somebody, then all of a sudden they have to get loud again. They themselves probably don't even know where it come from. And this is why most of my motivational videos, I always say, look within yourself and fix whatever you need to be fixing, because you'll be a danger to society. That's life, and that's just how it is. So this is why these types of people, when they're speaking, like I said, you stop for a moment and let them say whatever they're saying, because like it's common sense. You're talking to somebody and they're speaking the same time when you're talking. Obviously they're trying to silence you. Not to mention if they're yelling over you, they're trying to silence you because they think you're not listening to them, you're not paying attention. If you ever notice, if somebody is like, say you're zoned out or you're on the phone or you're doing something and somebody call you, if you didn't respond, what's the next thing? They get louder. And if you're still not responding, they get louder. Same concept. You didn't hear them before, so they have to get loud in order to feel like they're being heard. Not even knowing that people can hear them but not listen, because those two are two different things. So with that being said, that's where all of that come from. If you didn't know then, that's where it come from. And I'm not saying those guys are dangerous, that you need to avoid them and stay away from them. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying, like, whenever something triggers their trauma or triggers their emotion, that's why they be like, that's the reason why they are how they are. Because you got people in the world where if something happened to them, like, they don't deal with it. They, like I said, they throw it behind them, and then the time marches on, like I said, and then they pretend like the problem is not there, not knowing full well that a problem yesterday, if you don't fix the problem yesterday, tomorrow it will be greater. It's like paying a bill, or I would use paying a bill as an example. It's like paying a bill and your rent is due. You didn't pay your rent. Interest is added. So you may think, oh, today's the first of the month. Oh, I'm not going to pay my rent today. It's a second, and you're like, oh, it's okay, it's a second, blah, blah, blah. You throw it behind you, time marches on, you're pretending as if it doesn't exist in order to convince yourself that there is no issue. And then later down the line, when reality hits you, then if your rent is, say, $1,000, by the time reality hits you, it's charging you $1,100 extra interest. That's how it is. So my advice to you, I wouldn't recommend you run away from problems. If you have any issues with yourself, it's better to deal with it with yourself. Fix it, because all you're going to do, like, those are the types of people that don't fix themselves. And then, also, those types of people, they're the one that take no self-accountability. Those are the one that will blame everybody else for what's wrong with them. I'm telling you. Because if you're ever in a debate with them and then they're getting louder, like, you got some people, like me, I select people who I debate with, because some things, like when you're debating with somebody, you have to understand the type of person that they are and choose your words correctly, because you can debate and not be disrespectful, but that doesn't mean the person is not receiving it being disrespected. There's a difference. So when you're debating with somebody, if they ever get loud, that's because you trigger something within them and you don't even know. You don't even know. Because, bro, it could be any topic. You can be talking about money. And then you guys are debating about money. Then all of a sudden somebody get triggered because something was said. You know what I mean? And you got to remember, people don't know you and people don't know how you handle stuff. People don't know how you make decisions. So how can you blame everybody else for what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? Like that's the world where we live in. It's crazy. And this is why those types of people get loud, because once they're triggered, then all of a sudden they get that flashback all over again, like, oh, nobody's paying attention, no one is listening to them. So they have to get loud in order for the whole crowd to hear them, if not the whole place, wherever they are. You know what I mean? So you can see somebody at Walmart or any grocery store, and then they have to get loud. Like, you don't have to get loud to debate. Like, I've been in, like, not say, like, well, debates, and like I like strong conversations from time to time, challenge my intelligence and also somebody else's intelligence, because that's why we're on this world together too. Like, everybody have their own knowledge, own experience. So me, you can have a good conversation with somebody that share the same interests as you, or they have the same pattern as you, or they have the same lifestyle as you, or they come from the same past as you. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the world where we live in, and that's what I really believe. So those types of people, I'm not saying they're bad. It's just that they have issues that they haven't dealt with. So if you didn't know that, that's where it comes from. If you ever wonder why every time you're talking to this person, it could be your friend, you could be in a relationship, it could be a coworker, acquaintance, anybody, even somebody random. That's where it comes from. Use people that drink as an example. Like, people think drinking is bad for everybody. You know what I mean? That's what they think, because that's what they know. So to them, they think, oh, if you like for an example, they think, oh, if you drink, you're gonna end up becoming a crackhead, you're gonna destroy your whole life, you're gonna ruin everything. Me, I'm a social drinker, and I'm still marching forward in life. I'm proof in fact that drinking doesn't ruin nobody's life. If your life was garbage to begin with and you start drinking, your life will be even worse. That's what I believe in. So, bro, if you're, say, drinking with somebody, and every time you're drinking with a friend or a person, every time you're drinking with them, then all of a sudden they get loud. That's where that comes from. That's where it comes from. They're not used to being heard. And you can't blame them. Sometimes it's not you. Like, you're not the problem. But guess what? You're going to feel irritated and frustrated because you're going to be sitting down, and then you're going to be like, oh, every time this person is loud and this person is yelling up the place, and every time this person have a drink, they're yelling. That's where it's not you. A lot of people think it's them, but that's where the fun part comes in, because it's not you. And people that associate themselves with people like that, they're the one that sit down and they're guilty, and then they're thinking over and over and over again to, like, oh, what did I say? What did I do? I never did anything. Oh, then all of a sudden they start blaming themselves for the reason why somebody else is acting out. You got to remember, you do not control how people act. If a person is yelling all over the place, you do not control that. You only control how you respond to them. Them acting out, that's an issue that they haven't overcome. That's where that comes from. If you ever notice when, say, someone was in a relationship and they got hurt or cheated on or something happened, and then all of a sudden, every time they're in a conversation pertaining to their relationship, then all of a sudden they start, that's where that comes from, because they're still hurt. People that always yell, especially when they're upset, they're hurting inside. That's why. And they have to yell in order for everybody to know that their presence exists. They're the type of people that walk through, like when they were a kid, maybe going to school. They walk through like a ghost. Nobody don't look at them. Nobody pay attention to them. They probably had no friends in school. So in order for them to feel like their presence is worth something, if they're in a disagreement, they have to yell. This person is probably used to being ignored. But you got to remember, when you're young, remember, people do not know your story when you're in school unless you say so. You could be lying, you could be telling the truth, not the point. People don't know. So you can be going to school with somebody, and then by the time you're in your 20s, you meet somebody. Remember, the person you meet in your 20s have no idea of your backstory. So if you're going to have a conversation with them, and then all of a sudden they're yelling all over the place, it's not you. And I've seen it over and over and over again. People be yelling out, and you got that one that sit back, and you can see from their face, like, I'm a very good reader. Well, reading people and analyzing situations and quick thinking. I'm that guy. So I've been places and seeing people, having issues and one yelling and the other one sitting down, waiting for them to calm down. And then they're like, oh, why were you acting like that? Like people literally blame themselves for other people's fault. And that's something I never did because I'm the type of guy to say to somebody, oh, I'm not your problem. Whatever it is that's going on with you, I'm not responsible. I'm that type of guy. And some people hate when I say it, but that's just the reality. I always tell people, I live in reality. I don't live in no fantasy world. That's who I am. I know I'm not gonna convince myself that it's not how it is. No, no, I'm the type of guy to tell myself exactly what I see. That's how it is because that's what I see. I'm not gonna say, oh, this person is yelling at me, but let me trick myself and convince myself that they were not yelling at me and throw it behind me. No, when you do stuff like that, it leads to the same problem over and over and over again. That's life. But those types of people, they're still hurting and they haven't dealt with their trauma. They haven't dealt with any issue they had. It could be any issue. It could be like they they had issues with their parents, or they had issues with their siblings, or they had issues with their friends, or they had issues with their relationship, coworker, anybody. This is why they are loud. And everything boils down to the same concept: not used to being heard. And if you ignore them, they get louder and louder and louder. This is why they always like they will top your voice. And if you still ignore them, they will get louder. Naturally, if somebody ignore you, then you'll probably ignore them. You know what I mean? So if you're talking to somebody and then they're like, they look away or they're not interested, then they go away. Because I'm that type of guy. Well, I'm not saying I talk to strangers, but I can feel tension and I can feel when things are off. You know what I mean? So that's where that come from. It's their issue, not yours. So if you're the type of person that say you're always blaming yourself for somebody else yelling up the place, you're not the fault. I'm here to tell you, you are not. And if you're the type of person where every time you're triggered, you're loud, then you need to look within yourself and you need to fix yourself. Because what's going to happen is you're going to constantly hurting yourself over and over and over again. The pain you feel today will only be greater tomorrow if you didn't fix it yesterday. So you can be in any issue. You may throw it behind you and convince yourself that it's not how it is. But I assure you this, it will be greater and greater and greater tomorrow. Even when I was younger, like, well, my mind is sharper now and more, say, what's it called? But even when I was younger, like 17, 16, I wasn't one to like throw a problem behind me. Like, yeah, I was never that type of guy. I'm the type of guy, if I have a problem now, I fix it now because I'm fully aware that if I leave it for tomorrow, it will be greater. I'm that type of guy. A lot of people that say come across me, even when I was living in Jamaica, a lot of people will say, oh, you're always happy, blah, 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 all this. No, no, no. I fix my problem. The people that get loud, they're the ones that take no self accountability. They blame everybody else and everything. And then they walk through the world as if they're not the problem. They cover it up with a smile, pretending like nothing is wrong, blah, blah, blah. Then once you're in a debate, conversation, or argument, anything, as long as they're interacting with somebody else and you say something or somebody else say something, this is why they are triggered. Maybe they don't even know, but that's why. I always tell people, figure out who you are, look within yourself, because trust me, bro, hurt people, and misery love company. Like people who hang out with each other, it's either they're genuinely miserable or they're genuinely happy. No one that's like naturally happy, moving around with a light is gonna go and say, put themselves around people that are miserable. Rich people hang out with rich people. Poor people hang out with poor people. People that are smart hang out with smart people. People who are doing stuff with themselves, starting a career, they're like people hang out with slaves, people who have the similarities as them. That's where that come from. But you gotta like sometimes it's complete opposite, because when you meet somebody for the very first time, you do not know how they are. You know what I mean? And then over time, that's when you come to figure out that this person have a lot of issues. That's where that come from. And everything boils down to people that are loud. Like there's a difference when like talking in caps or boldly speaking doesn't mean that you're loud. It doesn't mean that you're loud or aggressive. Like same way how I'm talking to you right now. I'm not yelling. But you can say boldly speaking. But people who are always yelling, ah, they're topping your voice to silence you because they're not used to being heard. And I'm here to tell you this again. Stop blaming yourself for somebody else. You do not control what somebody else is doing. And if somebody is constantly loud whenever they're in a disagreement, that's because they're triggered by whatever was said. And sometimes those types of people, sometimes when they're hurt or something, and then the other side, they're like, oh, but why are you yelling at me? I never said anything. That's why. Because they don't know what they say. Like, you got to remember, you can say anything to a person without even knowing that they felt disrespected or they felt triggered. You don't know. So me, I'm the type of guy, if I'm in a conversation with somebody or debating over a certain topic, I choose which topic I debate with over certain people. Because, like, nobody who's gonna debate with you want to be wrong. People who are in debates, they're the one, or conversation, there are even arguments. Like, as long as you're interacting with somebody, they're the ones that say have a strong point, and they're challenging you by standing up for their own point. You know what I mean? And you got to remember, sometimes two people can be right and two people can be wrong, depending on how you look at it. Two people can be right from different angles. You know what I mean? But I think life is about talking to somebody else and, sharing information and, each one teach one. But loud people, they're the ones that have issues. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. If a person is loud, you'll never see me around somebody that's always yelling at the police because I'm fully aware of all these things. I'm aware. So my advice to you, if you're the person that always blaming yourself for somebody else yelling at you, it's not you. It's them. Stop beating yourself up and tearing yourself apart. You have nothing to do with it. You may say something that triggered them, but how can you know what they're triggered by? Stop beating yourself up. And if you're the person that always loud and you black out, you need to look within yourself and fix your problem, fix your issues, whatever it is that's bothering you, you need to deal with it. Because over time, that pain will get greater and greater and greater. And if you keep on running away from it, it will eventually catch up on you. So you need to fix yourself. So I hope this message was useful for some of you guys. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned. I will be back doing more stuff. You go enjoy the rest of your day. I'm out. And don't forget to follow me on social media. I post daily on them.